This is Hannibal here from the Hannibal TV on YouTube. I just got back from watching the long awaited smashing machine, the Mark Kerr movie with The Rock. I've known Mark Kerr since about 2020-ish. Done several interviews with him both online and in person, and we have a lot of common friends, and I know a lot of people who were portrayed in this movie. A couple of the people in it, they do make it clear that this is covering his years from about 97 to 2000. His overall record isn't great, and actually if you look at his last about 10 years, he's got several defeats in under a minute and several in under 2 minutes. So the one thing in this that they kind of hide or they don't allude to it at all is they cover his one visit to rehab that was also covered in the Smashing Machine actual documentary. But they kind of make it seem like that was it. It was over. It's my understanding that these problems went on for quite a while, and all I know is someone that brought him and some other fighters to WrestleMania weekend was asking me if I had any contacts in Vegas for pain pills, and I'm not saying it was for him. This same person also had other fighters and wrestlers with them, so it may have been for one of them. But there was someone in the group that was with Mark Kerr wanting pain pills WrestleMania weekend, which of course I had no contacts for. Luckily for me, I've never had any of those issues, thank God. And I hope that Mark Kerr has conquered his demons now. He does make it the one of the best parts about the movie to me, and I'll go through it. And if you guys want to bring up anything, I'll bring it up. Is at the end where they show Mark Kerr in a grocery store and nobody recognizes him. Um, it's like kind of this was done so people will now remember who Mark Kerr was. Because I'll be honest, I didn't even know about Mark Kerr until Rick Bassman, who was actually Mark Kerr's Pride agent at one point in time, told me years ago that The Rock was going to do a movie on him, and did I want to get an interview with Mark Kerr? Because this was back when originally it was only going to be for Netflix, and they weren't even sure if it was going to happen. He had signed a contract, and and yeah, of course, I'll interview any fighter, anyways, for the most part, especially from those pioneer eras, because they just don't make them like that anymore. But like it's not like he was one of the more known guys, even though he was a two-time UFC champion. Um, comment in this is I believe one of the WWE executives recently said in the same conversation where they were saying their WWE ticket prices aren't high enough that they feel The Rock's movie on Mark Kerr is going to help rejuvenate WWE's business, like as if this movie is somehow going to help WWE. This movie has nothing to do with wrestling, although I know Mark Kerr wrestled a few matches in Japan. It doesn't have anything to do with wrestling other than The Rock is in it. So I don't understand how WWE is saying this movie is going to help the WWE's business other than if The Rock was to return to WWE and wrestle, because they don't even mention professional wrestling in this movie. And I I mean if you're a fan of The Rock, you're going to like this movie, but it is very dramatic. There is some action scenes, but there's a lot of drama. There's a lot going on with him and his wife, who I think was played by Emily Blunt. The acting was good from those two. Well, I do respect Ryan Bader, and for his first movie with as a non-actor, he did pretty good. But a lot of people, and I have to agree with this, and including the person that I went with, did not think it was a good choice for Mark Coleman because Mark Coleman is quite a personality. He's funny, he's entertaining. Uh, Bader did not. He said his lines and stuff, and again, I actually like him, and this is not taking away anything from him. But he did not portray the character of Mark Coleman well, although his line deliveries for a first time actor was great, but they could have had a better Mark Coleman character. Here's what I think they should have done for Mark Coleman. They did a great job on The Rock's face, making him look younger. I would have given that job to Mark Coleman. I mean, if you had told Mark Coleman, "Hey, we're gonna pay you a large amount of money to portray yourself in this. Here's some supplements similar to what The Rock takes to help you get there, and we're gonna make your face look younger." I think Mark Coleman would have been better playing himself because he doesn't look all that much older. Boss Rutan um, played himself, and well, he looked a bit older than in those days. I mean, Bosch has aged very well and kept himself in shape. He did a great job in this. I really enjoyed seeing him in this. He used to have a podcast on this channel, Talking Tough, with Rick Bassman and Butterbean. So I mean, I was always honored to have those guys on this channel. And what it must be pretty interesting, like Boss Rutan playing himself like 25 years later. Who could imagine like when you're doing something in the moment that wow, 25 years later, someone's actually going to do a Hollywood movie about this. That's got to be pretty good. But one thing about this, they didn't really refer to Mark Coleman as this smashing machine until at the end, the grocery store scene where they say this is Mark Kerr, the smashing machine. There's no like the person I was with thought this was going to be more of a wrestling movie. Wasn't familiar at all with Mark Kerr. And at the end, she asked me why did they call it the smashing machine? Why did they call it the Smash Machine? That part was not really transmitted throughout the movie. Why was that his nickname? It was done based on the documentary that somebody leaked onto YouTube a few days ago that I rewatched because I'd only seen clips of it. Because apparently, when The Rock bought the Smashing Machine, he had all of the illegal versions ripped off of YouTube, and I think he made it unable to buy. But somebody put it out, and there is some scenes from the Smashing Machine documentary that were acted out in the movie, and the movie is very close to the documentary. So if that was what they wanted to accomplish, make a movie very similar to the documentary, they did that. It seemed at some points in time Rock was more believable as Mark Coleman as others. I mean, at first, in for instance, the scene that they've used in the trailer where he's talking to the kid and the old lady in the doctor's office, where he's really doing the Mark Kerr accent and stuff. In those times, and he's got the wig on and everything, it does seem like he's playing Mark Kerr, but there's a lot of times in this where you're just watching. And here's the other thing: people keep saying, "Oh, well, this is a totally different direction for The Rock." So this might be a good one if you haven't been a fan of his past work. Well, this is a new direction. There's a lot of drama in it, yes, but I mean, he's playing an MMA fighter. He's been a wrestler since he was like 20 years old. How is this such a big transition for him? He did a good job of acting in it, but why are you telling me this is such a change for The Rock? He's playing a fighter. To me, it's like this is perfect for him because it's right down the alley. Spam message. Sorry about that. There was only about 4 or 5 people in the theater. I thought there was going to be a lot more. No posters inside or outside. No, Marco, I don't miss Canada. I was just there in Kelowna, BC for a few weeks not too long ago. Um, But yeah, as far as the actual movie itself, it dragged at certain times. But again, they're going by a certain script. The finish of here's the other thing, because I knew Mark Coleman was going to win the pride fighting thing. After The Rock lost, I feel a large proportion of the movie after that got boring because I was already aware Mark Coleman was going to win that pride tournament. And it's just like, okay, well, we know he's going to win. Why do I want to sit here another 20, 25 minutes? It, to me, that really dragged. Um, the other thing about Mark Coleman, they really gave Mark Coleman a pass in this because he's a self-admitted severe alcoholic. Some people even allude, because he's also a smoker, that he may have actually had something to do with the fire where his parents passed, or his dog passed, and he saved his parents because he was back staying at his parents for whatever reason about a year or so ago. I mean, cigarettes start fires all the time. Anything's possible. I don't think they ever found the exact cause of that fire. But again, he came out of this looking squeaky clean, and he has a long history of alcohol abuse. So this is great. Mark Coleman is a very nice guy and deserves a second chance of getting known. So I truly hope this helps him. I hope it helps Mark Kerr. I've talked to both of them since. It seems like Kerr has a bit more of an ego than Coleman, and I've also heard that from some other people. He's not as. I mean, who can blame Kerr for not being as down to earth? Having The Rock, the biggest movie star in the world, playing you, and your career is getting highlights. There's a few things I think they should have talked more of because they were saying at one point they're saying he didn't win his fight because he was partying too much, but never really actually shows him partying beyond having a beer and taking pills. It doesn't show any more than that, so you kind of have to imagine it. I wish they had gone deeper into that. Hello to you, Marco. Who would I pick to play the Hulkster? I don't know. But if they ever do want a Bruiser Brody, I think I could play a good Bruiser Brody. At some point in time, Matt Dillon and Ben Affleck were saying they wanted to do a movie about Hulk Hogan, but someone threatened to sue them. So a real version of a Hulk Hogan movie would be good. One thing I'll say about this, I did not fall asleep in this movie. I fell asleep in the Von Erich movie like 3 times. The Von Erich movie that came out a couple years ago was extremely underwhelming for me, and it was so they didn't they went so far away from the real story that it actually angered me when I tried to watch it again. This one they kept to the story, so I'll commend them for that. They kept to the real story. It was very much like the real documentary. They didn't try and rewrite history. I'll definitely commend them for that. I had fun. It didn't hurt that it was unlimited popcorn refills. It's cool to see movies being done about guys you know. Even my buddy Dan Severin, they mentioned his name right at the start of this. So I mean, these UFC pioneers didn't make all that much money. So it's good that they're kind of getting the credit that they deserve because both Pride and UFC were more entertaining back then. They don't even mention that he was a two-time UFC champion in this, so I don't believe. Which I was surprised at that, but I guess maybe that's because they wanted to keep it about the Pride. One thing that they did explain better in this than in the Smashing Machine documentary is the one fight where they changed the result of Mark Kerr's loss from a loss to a no contest because he was kneed on the ground in referee's position. They talk they talk about it in the Smashing Machine legitimate documentary, but it didn't they didn't really make as big a deal about it in the real documentary as in the movie. In the movie, it was clear that that fighter broke the rules that were talked about, and that caused Mark Kerr to get his first loss, which was overturned. But that really ended his unbeaten streak, and he was never the same again. Um, so yeah, Brutus the Barber Beefcake, bring me to the White House 4th of July event. I mean, that sounds like a pretty cool event. Let's hope that this Three Eye Atlas interstellar mystery object doesn't hit us with anything too bad. We are going to get better pictures of it tomorrow. The Mars cameras are supposed to get good pictures of it, so let's hope we're all still around by next July 4th. The movie was way better than The Claw. If you're a rock fan, you're gonna like it. If you're a Mark Kerr fan, you're gonna like it. There's a little bit more drama that kind of drags at certain points. And the movie, if you know the ending to the movie, as I said, once The Rock as Mark Kerr gets eliminated from the tournament, it's like I know Mark Coleman's gonna win. I don't want to watch 25 more minutes of this or however long it was. But I did like the last scene at the grocery store because that scene reminded me of like The Wrestler. The scene that could be so many of us, with which I won't even put myself in that category. But I've had to work regular jobs after having wrestling jobs that are full time. For instance, back in my Puerto Rico days, I went from being a star in Puerto Rico, being on TV, and wrestling in front of thousands of people, to having to go back and work a normal job. That was a hard pill to swallow. So I do understand a bit what it's like, not to their level, but Mark Coleman going from fighting in front of 40,000 people to going through a grocery store and nobody recognizes him. Actually, I'll tell you guys a quick story. When I interviewed Mark Coleman in Phoenix back in 2021, he wanted me to meet him at a Panera Bread, I think it's called, in Scottsdale. And he said he goes there all the time, be no problem to film the interview. It's not a busy place. We'll do it in a quiet space in there. They would not let us record the interview in the Panera Bread. They, even though he's a regular customer, they didn't know who he was. And he's sitting there saying, "This guy came from Canada. I'm a two-time UFC champion. I was famous in Japan. Can we do this here?" And they said, "No, sorry, you can't do it here, but you can do it out on the patio." So I did notice some people commenting that why did we do it on the patio? We weren't supposed to do it on the patio. And he had chose that location. He had to go somewhere else after. I only had a certain amount of time. We had to do it outside, but that just goes to show you he wasn't recognized. I mean, I believe we even said, "Hey, this guy's about to get a movie done on him by The Rock. No, you guys have to go out on the patio." Like they didn't care. So I understand. Shaq, there's a Blood Hunter movie coming out before Halloween this year, so I'm looking forward to that. Um, but I'm happy for Mark Kerr, and I wish The Rock the best on his future, going down this new path of his, which I really don't think is a new path. Somebody has no idea who Pride or UFC fighters were back then, and it's true. And even wrestlers nowadays, I remember a few years ago there was a survey done. They asked 100 random people to name 5 wrestlers, and like other than The Rock and John Cena and Brock Lesnar, they were saying mostly Hulk Hogan, Steve Austin, Ric Flair, Ultimate Warrior. So even today's wrestlers aren't as recognizable as the past. But yeah, I mean, I'm happy for Mark Kerr. He's a nice enough guy. I told him, I actually told Mark Kerr, and he should take my idea on this, but it doesn't look like it because he's actually looks. It's funny that he knew this publicity was coming, but he's not. He has a belly right now. You can see him on Jimmy Fallon the other night. I'm not saying he's fat or anything, but it's like he knew this publicity was coming, and like he might have chances for other movie jobs and stuff, and it seems like he's let himself go to a level that he was even in better shape when I did my interview with him in 2021. But I told him my advice to him is you should convince Rock because he has wrestled in Japan. I'm like, you should convince Rock to have a match with you in WWE, get into shape, and find a way to do it because the Rock has more pull in WWE than Triple H. And a Mark Kerr, the real Mark Kerr against the Rock could have been interesting, but it seems like he's just gonna to lay back and enjoy the ride. Casual fans today only refer to 80s and 90s wrestlers. True, more those guys, and even the people say now that UFC fighters make way more than back then. The top ones do for sure, but I don't think like they're as overall like the last two really big stars that like people that are only semi MMA fans know is like Conor McGregor. You could say John Jones, but John Jones is not at the McGregor level. At one point, Ronda Rousey was really over. Brock Lesnar was really over. But in the old days, you knew Tank Abbott, Dan Severn, Don Fry, Mark Coleman, Gary Goodrich. Like they were just so much more identifiable than today. There's so many of them, and none of them stand out that much. There are some here and there, but I think that's just how it is. Both wrestling and MMA need a new person that can talk like McGregor, but actually still win matches and go in there and even though they're all making more money than ever, but you don't hear people talking about it as much as they were even during George St. Pierre's run. Maybe it's from because I'm from Canada, but I remember when George St. Pierre was doing really well, everybody was talking about him, and I don't hear as much buzz about today's fighters. But yeah, every industry has. No, there's still some legitimate stars. Look at well, maybe there isn't. I can't name them. Anyways, guys, let me know what you thought of the movie in the comments. Again, if you're not an MMA fan or a fan of The Rocks, I don't know if you're gonna like this. I really don't. It does drag at very points. There is some good action scenes, but it's not action packed. There's a lot of drama in it. So I did enjoy it because I am a fan of The Rock and I knew a lot of the people in the movie. So I'll give it a thumbs up for that reason. Could it have been better? Yes. Yeah, McGregor, definitely as crazy as he comes off, was a good businessman. Thanks.